Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kinda scared to make this video because I don't know what the community or fandom behind Five Nights at Freddy's is like compared to what I'm used to in the furry fandom. I know the Zootopia fandom can be a bit sus and everything ended pretty alright from the video I did on it, but hey, if you don't have someone on the internet mad at you for doing what you normally do, granted if it's morally acceptable and doesn't hurt anyone, then you're doing something wrong. I don't know if that's right or not, but we're gonna go with it. But heyo guys, my name is BetaEtaDelota, and today I want to talk about FNAF. Never thought I'd hear those words come out of my mouth in all honesty. Okay, I know this isn't really the type of thing you'd expect to see on this channel, but this has kind of been a lingering topic I've wanted to delve into for a while now, because the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has had a pretty big impact on several things in online media, from normalizing the horror genre within a very young audience to redefining how indie games are made, or rather how to make money from an original concept repeated an umpteenth amount of times. But the most important thing, which a large majority of you guys are here for, is how Five Nights at Freddy's turned gamers into furries. Good going there, Beta. You've got all these other interesting and thought-provoking video essays, literally 2 pages worth of video ideas. But what do you settle on? Why Five Nights at Freddy's makes people furries. And no, I'm not talking about the plethora of FNAF-related fursuits that you see running around at furry conventions, although there are a pretty good amount if I'm being honest. But rather, how Five Nights at Freddy's and its success kinda acted as a stepping stone for people's introductions to the furry fandom. So in a sense, this is the same thing as my video I did on Zootopia, but there are some different ideas I want to explore. Because even though FNAF and Zootopia are, in some sense, pieces of media that are complete furry bait, one is a video game series and the other is a movie, in which different audience demographics contribute to the successes of both. And the assumption from there, specifically with Five Nights at Freddy's, is that we're looking more at the geek culture and nerdy side of media and fandom than just a normal Disney film. So let's talk about FNAF, starting with how it became the cult classic it is today, or rather, how the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom came to be. See what I did there? Cult, fandom, no one watches my videos. So if you've seen the pretty hilarious video on the history of FNAF by Thaf9, you probably already know where I'm going with a lot of this, but I'll keep it relatively simple. Five Nights at Freddy's started out as a basic indie game that released during the summer of 2014, and was slow on release as most indie horror games are. And then Markiplier happened. That's literally it, I'm not even joking. Also, Game Theory tried something an etc amount of times. I'm pretty sure MatPat just owns the franchise on YouTube, but Markiplier for me was how I originally heard of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, with the first video they released of scariest game ever, and the thumbnail is just, it was too tempting. It was too non-avoidable. And then my edgy friends mentioned it to me, like a week later. The same ones who, may I remind you, still flame me to this day for being a furry. And then my younger cousin mentioned it to me, who is a furry. Hell, even my boomer mother, who hasn't created a Google account yet, told me I should try it on my channel. If there's a horror game that had spread like wildfire that last summer, it was Five Nights at Freddy's. And as you can predict, for a game that was widely talked about, whether it was the lore and characters or the next big installment releasing every few months or so, a fandom was eventually born from the interest of Five Nights at Freddy's. Individuals who were truly passionate about the franchise, who absolutely adored anything new that was released and wanted to share their love for the franchise with those who were equally passionate, unintentionally created the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom. And that goes for just about anything in entertainment and media nowadays. Tumblr and Pinterest still exist despite one of the two banning NSFW content, and people from all sorts of backgrounds and age groups continue to invest their time and money into that sort of geek culture. The popularity of a specific fandom depends entirely on how mainstream or trending that original franchise or piece of media is in the first place. And Five Nights at Freddy's was massive. It was a trending mainstream game that honestly wasn't considered to be cringy if you were into or talked about it at all. Which, let me just say, being called a nerd or geek isn't a bad thing by any means. It means 1, you're smarter, and 2, you have interests compared to like 90% of people out there. But I'm getting off track. How does all of this relate to furries? Specifically, how does the Five Nights at Freddy's fandom compare or relate to the furry fandom? Well, the biggest dead giveaway is with the horror genre, in which furry Twitter is an absolute nightmare to experience. I'm not kidding when I say that. Besides that, you obviously have the animatronic animals that are probably the biggest form of furry bait I've ever seen, with future installments of the game having rather interesting animatronic designs and voices for said animatronics. It does kind of look like a fursuit now that I think about it. And I understand the animatronic's purpose is supposed to be more uncanny, creepy, and entirely unattractive, but again, DeviantArt is very much alive and well. Now, if it was just plain animatronic humans, I don't think furries would have really had anything to do with the franchise. Granted, if there would be a franchise in the first place without the animatronic animals. Again, it's much easier to market things and appeal to a wider audience with anthropomorphized cartoon animals. If you try to do the same thing with humans, that shit can become uncanny valley real quick. Another big thing the two fandoms have in common is how they became relatively popular and known through online media. media, or even just the online world in which kids and adults had gone involved in it. I think that, again, goes for just about any fandom, where a franchise or sub-interest is practically marketed by its fans or members. But again, a franchise or sub-interest has really made it when the fans or members of the franchise are able to market it. Of course, the Markiplier side of things brought FNAF into the spotlight, but I'd argue that the fan art posted on DeviantArt, Tumblr, and Pinterest is what brought that fandom to life. The fan art and just overall fan content is what extended the existence of Five Nights at Freddy's past the games. And the same thing can be said about how furries came to be, with it all just starting with an idea or fantasy drawn out. I guess you could argue as well that the FNAF fandom theoretically bridged a gap into the furry fandom by just existing, but I'm assuming something like that is just inevitable. Some furries, I'm assuming, were a fan of the game, so it kind of makes sense that this would create some extension into the fandom. So similarly to the point in my video on Zootopia and what it did for the furry fandom, with Five Nights at Freddy's, the existence of a fandom from it being a relatively popular franchise is what created a bridge for people in the furry fandom. I mean, just look around online and I'm sure you'll find some fursona or furry art piece that draws inspiration from Five Nights at Freddy's. I can't tell you the amount of FNAF related profile pictures, art, and even fursuits I see from people on Twitter. My theories aren't too far-fetched. The main point of this video, though, that I kind of haven't really gone through, is that pretty much all fandoms have some overlap, and the psychology or even sociology behind geek culture and just nerding out over fictional worlds and universes is something that all of us share. Fandoms are born from some really passionate and creative people, and Five Nights at Freddy's has a pretty avid fandom, just based on the franchise popularity alone. A fandom that is obviously part of geek culture, but so mainstream to the point where it's seen as a reasonable thing to be interested in. But all of this kind of just makes me think about something, and it's a bit unrealistic to even wonder if this would happen. But could the furry fandom have gotten the same treatment as Five Nights at Freddy's did? It's just raw creativity put into the thought process of colorful cartoon anthropomorphic animals. I know we already know the answer deep down, but could the furry fandom have blown up the same way Five Nights at Freddy's did? I don't know. That's for you to decide. But on that note, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments below as always. I want to give a big thank you to my friend Wyatt Puppers for really helping me out with this video. They were a big help with being an example of someone who joined the furry fandom through Five Nights at Freddy's and reading over pretty much all the facts and little nitbits of information. Did I just say that? Nitbits? But still, if it weren't for Wyatt, I wouldn't have been able to make this video, and really, I wouldn't have gotten the idea for this in the first place. If you want me to make more videos like this, please let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to discuss more about the geek culture and really delving into sociology and a bit of psychology. And overall, Five Nights at Freddy's has been something I've really wanted to talk about for a while now. Hope you guys have a nice and safe and fun Halloween. I don't know if any of you are going anywhere or doing anything, and I hope not, because the plague, but eat some candy, watch some horror movies, play some horror games, or watch me stream on Twitch. You know, that's an option as well. But besides that, I've got nothing else. Have a happy Halloween, guys. And as always, stay life jacket. Take care.